been a regular part of this forum. This forum is more than just a regular 6 months affair. It's really, to me, is a platform for all of us to come back, connect, and contribute to a growing EV ecosystem in Delhi. A growing EV ecosystem, even beyond Delhi, I would say, in India and globally. Because what we are seeing, not just in Delhi, India, or globally, is a mobility transformation. A transformation that is taking us towards a mobility future that is electrified, autonomous, shared, connected, and more importantly, yearly updated. Our cities, our city regions, states need to get ready for this transformation and need to get ready for the mass adoption of this new shared, connected electric future. And what we are witnessing in Delhi is that preparation, is that foundation that will help us transition seamlessly to this mobility future. With Delhi's EV policy, we've seen a very comprehensive policy and regulatory framework over the last 2 years being implemented, which has really triggered, catalyzed, and supported the transition to this clean mobility future, of which electric vehicles are a very, very integral component. Hailed as amongst the most progressive EV policy frameworks, not just in India, but globally, Delhi's EV policy over the last 2 years has really given us that hope and confidence that it is possible to leapfrog to electric vehicles' future. What really was a matter of talk, I think 2 to 3 years back, has become reality. The Delhi's experience is giving us that hope and confidence that that leapfrogging that we were all talking about in reports and policy frameworks is really possible. It can happen. You know, we get that confidence because when we see the last 2 years of the policy, Delhi has registered almost 63,000 electric vehicles. The contribution of EVs in new vehicle sales has hovered around 10 to 12% in the last few months, which really means that out of every 100 vehicles being registered in the city now, about 10 to 15 are electric vehicles. This is, you know, a very important milestone, a feat by the city, and is at par with many global cities and states around the world. What we've seen in the last 2 years, really, there have been successes, there have been experiences, learnings from the implementation process of the policy. And what we will see today shortly is a release of a report by Delhi government that documents this experience of the last 2 years. We will be launching a report which shares the highlights and the learnings, insights during the implementation of Delhi EV Forum. This report is really going to map the journey of Delhi. It will touch upon also where we go from here in 2022 towards a vision of 2030 of an all-clean mobility future. We are glad at RMI India to partner with Delhi government to co-author this report, which we strongly believe will prove to be a reference document, not just within Delhi, but for other cities, states, nationally, internationally. Today, I think when we look back at the last 2 years, all I would want to say is that, you know, we've achieved success, but it's also very, very important for us to leverage this momentum to really push towards achieving and even surpassing the targets that the EV policy has set for itself. Our hope is that today in Delhi, a 4th Delhi EV Forum, the deliberations that will happen, the panel discussions, all of that will give us perspectives and insights that can really help us move forward on this agenda and path forward. So thank you all, and a very, very warm welcome to the 4th Delhi EV Forum again.
Thank you very much, Akshama. We'd like to now show a short video which documents the learnings of the report that Akshama shortly mentioned about. Could I please request the stage lights to be dimmed and the video to be started?
Delhi, India's hustling and bustling capital. It is home to over 20 million people. As the city grew, so did the air pollution. Today, there is rising demand for clean mobility to help Delhi breathe better.
पोल्यूशन को कम करने के लिए एक बहुत जो बोल्ड स्टेप दिल्ली गवर्नमेंट ने उठाया वो था इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल पॉलिसी को लॉन्च करने का और उसको रोल आउट करने का।
आने वाले समय में दिल्ली की इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल पॉलिसी, इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल मॉडल की भी चर्चा पूरे देश में होगी। इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल पॉलिसी काम करेगी जो प्रदूषण को कम करेगी, हमारी अर्थव्यवस्था को बूस्ट करेगी और लोगों के लिए जॉब्स क्रिएट करेगी।
Delhi's electric vehicle journey over the last 2 years has been a story of many firsts. अगस्त 2020 में जब माननीय मुख्यमंत्री अरविंद केजरीवाल जी ने इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल पॉलिसी की घोषणा करी थी, तो दिल्ली देश का पहला राज्य बना था जिसने एक फर्म टारगेट के साथ अपना इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल का मिशन लॉन्च किया था। हमने ये तय किया था तब कि 4 साल में दिल्ली में इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल्स की जो शेयर है वो 25% हो जाएगी।
The policy has hit many major milestones so far. Within 1 year of the policy's launch, EV sales in Delhi had grown by 3 times and crossed CNG sales. In February 2022, EV share in total vehicle sales reached 12%, the highest ever for an Indian city. In April 22, Delhi became the first state to install LED AC chargers. By July this year, over 62,000 EVs had been sold and 2,000 EV charging points had been installed in Delhi since the policy's launch.
आज हम अगस्त 2022 में हैं। हमारी इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल पॉलिसी के 2 साल खत्म हो गए। पहली बार देश में किसी भी राज्य या किसी भी शहर ने डबल डिजिट्स में इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल्स का शेयर लाया है। पिछले 2 साल में जब से ये पॉलिसी आई है, कुल 60,000 नए व्हीकल्स दिल्ली में ले जा चुके हैं।
This year, the sales of electric vehicles is clocking 10% of total vehicle sales. New vehicle registrations of electric vehicles. Delhi has registered the same number of vehicles as Bombay, Calcutta and Chennai put together. The number of electric vehicles sold today are more than CNG vehicles, and that is an interesting data point given that CNG has been around for more than 3 decades now. Public transport, we have set a very ambitious goal that by 2025, 75% of Delhi's fleet would be electric. And as we talk, we have about 1,800 buses we have placed firm orders. 200 buses are already rolling in the city, and by end of next year, all these buses will actually be inducted in our fleet. We have prepared a very ambitious plan of contracting another 6,000 plus electric buses, given a time frame of 2025.
वो शहर जो अपना चार्जिंग इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर फिक्स कर पाए हैं, वही इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल्स की दौड़ में आगे बढ़ पाए हैं। पहली बार हो रहा है कि दिल्ली में 2000 से ज़्यादा चार्जिंग पॉइंट्स किसी भी शहर में लगे हो। दिल्ली में जो शेयर है चार्जर्स का, हर 25 वाहनों पे एक चार्जर, जो दुनिया में ऑस्लो की तुलना में है। अगले 3-4 महीनों में 1000 पॉइंट्स यहाँ पे जुड़ जाएंगे।
राइट फ्रॉम ड्राफ्टिंग स्टेज ऑफ द पॉलिसी बहुत हमने वाइड स्टेक होल्डर कंसल्टेशन किया, बहुत हमने मीटिंग्स की। अलग अलग जो सेगमेंट्स हैं, चाहे फिर वो व्हीकल मैन्युफैक्चरर्स क्यों ना हो, चाहे वो बैटरी मैन्युफैक्चरर्स क्यों ना हो, उसको पब्लिक से हमने लगातार कंसल्ट किया। जो अलग अलग यूनिवर्सिटीज़ हैं, वहाँ पे जो प्रोफेसर हैं, उनसे हमने कंसल्ट किया। और जहाँ पे इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल पॉलिसी अगर कहीं लॉन्च हुई या जहाँ इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल्स इंट्रोड्यूस हुए हमसे पहले, उनको हमने स्टडी किया। तो आई थिंक द फर्स्ट मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट थिंग विच वी डिड was to do a very good consultation with all the stakeholders, और ये उसी का नतीजा है कि आज तक मेरे ख्याल से पूरे देश में नहीं, पूरी दुनिया में दिल्ली इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल पॉलिसी जो है वो सबसे एक बेहतरीन पॉलिसी मानी जा रही है।
पहली बार तब ऐसा हुआ था कि इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल्स पॉलिसी की जो पूरी एम्फेसिस है वो हम डिमांड साइड यानी कि व्हीकल्स खरीदने की तरफ हम देंगे। जो लोग 2 व्हीलर्स, 3 व्हीलर्स, 4 व्हीलर्स ले रहे हैं उनको देंगे, और ना कि बड़ी कंपनियों को केवल इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल्स मैन्युफैक्चर करने के लिए देंगे।
We were one of the pioneers in the country. The idea was that to allow purchase incentives, to allow tax breaks, to give ease of registration, to make permitless kind of a framework. There should be as far as practicable price parity between conventional fuel vehicle and an electric vehicle.
ये स्टडीज़ कहती हैं कि अगर मैक्सिमम जो पोल्यूशन आज के दिन कंट्रीब्यूट हो रहा है वो 2 व्हीलर से हो रहा है, तो हमने ये इंश्योर किया कि मैक्सिमम जो संख्या है वो 2 व्हीलर्स की रहे सब्सिडी के सेगमेंट में। ई रिक्शाज का रहे क्योंकि वो लास्ट माइल कनेक्टिविटी और बहुत भारी संख्या में ई रिक्शाज यूज़ होती हैं। कार्स का रहे, फिर साइकिल्स को हमने इंक्लूड किया। तो बेसिकली हमने जितने भी व्हीकल्स हैं उनको प्रायोरिटाइज किया और ये इंश्योर किया कि जो मैक्सिमम जिनका पोल्यूशन में कंट्रीब्यूशन है उनको मैक्सिमम नंबर की व्हीकल्स की सब्सिडी उनको प्राप्त हो।
For 4 wheelers in the beginning we kind of for the first 1,000 vehicles we gave purchase incentives, but later we tapered that down. In terms of 2 wheeler sales, they are the fastest growing segment today in the EV market.
रेगुलेटरी चेंजेस जो दिल्ली ने पिछले 2 साल में किए हैं वो भी दुनिया भर में अनोखे हैं। पहला, दिल्ली में आज आपको सबसे कम दर में इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल चार्जिंग करने को मिलेगी, ये दिल्ली की खासियत है। पहली बार इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल्स के लिए हमने एक पब्लिक प्राइवेट पार्टनरशिप मॉडल लाया है, जिसके तहत प्राइवेट एंटिटीज आती हैं और इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल चार्जिंग स्टेशन लगाती हैं। कुल ऐसे 100 पब्लिक चार्जिंग स्टेशन जल्द ही दिल्ली में खुलने वाले हैं और यहाँ पर केवल 2 रुपए पर यूनिट में इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल चार्जिंग हो पाएगी। जैसे कि ये DDC का राजघाट डिपो स्टेशन है, वैसे ही हमने मेट्रो के दिल्ली मेट्रो के 70 ऐसे मेट्रो स्टेशन में भी चार्जिंग स्टेशन लगा रखे हैं। अगर आम लोग भी रेसिडेंशियल या ऑफिस प्रीमाइसेस में भी ईवी का चार्जर, ईवी का मीटर लगाना चाहें तो वो भी उन्हें मंजूर है, जो देश भर में कहीं नहीं हो रहा। सिंगल विंडो फैसिलिटी क्रिएट करी है कि आम लोग अगर अपने घर पे, ऑफिस में या फिर बिजनेस ओनर्स अपने मॉल्स पे, रेस्टोरेंट्स में चार्जर्स अगर लगाना चाहें तो वो केवल एक फोन कॉल कर सकते हैं अपने डिस्कॉम को और 7 से 10 दिन के अंदर उनके घर पे ये चार्जर लग जाएगा।
आज से हम स्विच दिल्ली कैंपेन शुरू कर रहे हैं, दिल्ली के लोगों को जागरूक करने के लिए इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल्स के प्रति। स्विच दिल्ली मतलब कि आप अपने पॉल्यूटिंग व्हीकल से इलेक्ट्रिकल व्हीकल तक को की तरफ स्विच कीजिए।
पॉलिसी को हमने लॉन्च करने के बाद उसको हमने छोड़ा नहीं, उसको हम लगातार ट्रैक करते रहे। 2 हफ्ते के अंदर अंदर वो सब्सिडी जो है व्हीकल खरीदने वाले के अकाउंट में वो पहुंच जानी चाहिए। सब्सिडी भी किस प्रकार से मिले उसका हमने पूरा फ्रेमवर्क तैयार किया ताकि कोई भी जो एप्लीकेंट है उसको कहीं किसी भी ऑफिस में जाने की आवश्यकता ना हो, चाहे फिर वो डीलर है, चाहे हमारा ट्रांसपोर्ट डिपार्टमेंट है, अलग अलग अधिकारी हैं और फिर चाहे बैंक है, उसको सारी चीज़ों को हमने इंटीग्रेट किया विद इन टाइम बाउंड मैनर।
Accessing incentives under Delhi's EV policy is very easy. The burden of applying for incentives is not on the consumer. Instead, it is the vehicle dealer that applies for the incentives. After the application is approved, the incentive is released to the beneficiary's bank account within 7 to 10 days of the EV purchase.
The guiding principles were that we should try to make the regime simpler, digital and customer friendly, and secondly, as far as practicable, to encourage faster adoption. We have kept timelines that within 7 days of application we will disperse subsidies, and so far we have disbursed 94 crore rupees subsidy to people who have applied. About 90% of cases we have been able to meet the service level agreement, which is easy, transparent, and there is no possibility of duplication.
एक डेडिकेटेड टीम जो कि इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल पॉलिसी के हर एक पहलू को स्टडी करे, कहाँ दिक्कत आ रही है, कहाँ डिफिकल्टी आ रही है, कहाँ पे बॉटलनेक्स बन रहे हैं जिसकी वजह से डिले हो रहे हैं, उन सबको एक डेडिकेटेड ईवी सेल हमने क्रिएट किया ताकि वो पूरी इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल पॉलिसी को स्टडी करती रहे।
वर्किंग ग्रुप बनाया है क्योंकि हम जानते हैं कि दिल्ली में तमाम एजेंसीज हैं जिनका कोऑर्डिनेशन करना काफ़ी मुश्किल हो जाता है। तो पहली बार देश में हमने एक मॉडल बनाया है कि तमाम एजेंसीज एक साथ बैठती हैं, डीडीसी उसको चेयर करता है और हम एक कॉमन स्ट्रैटेजी बनाते हैं कि दिल्ली को हम कहाँ ले जाना चाहते हैं।
इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल पॉलिसी जो दिल्ली की है वो क्लासिक एग्जाम्पल है कि किस प्रकार से सही स्टेक होल्डर्स के साथ कोलैबोरेट करके यू गेट द डिजायर्ड रिजल्ट्स। लगातार पिछले 2 साल जो इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल लगातार दिल्ली की सड़कों पे ऐड हुए हैं और दिल्ली इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल पॉलिसी जिस प्रकार से एग्जीक्यूट और इम्प्लीमेंट हुई है, तो ये कहना गलत नहीं हुआ कि दिल्ली जो है वो एक लाइट हाउस की तरह इमर्ज हो रही है। और ये अपील करूँगा सभी स्टेट से कि जो दिल्ली इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल पॉलिसी की जो लर्निंग्स हैं, इनको अगर बढ़िया तरीके से अडॉप्ट किया जाए तो आई थिंक इंडिया को डीकार्बनाइज करने में बहुत बड़ी मदद ज़रूर मिलेगी।
Thank you. And as you all would see, Delhi is clearly a front runner in the EV adoption, and this is backed by a very strong EV policy instituted in the national capital. With this, would I request the launch of our report, Accelerating Electric Mobility in Delhi, Journey and Insights from Implementing the Delhi Electric Vehicles Policy. The report documents the opportunities, challenges, solutions, and insights obtained through the 2 years of rigorous day-to-day implementation of the policy. This has enabled the national capital of Delhi march towards India's leading capital in the EV adoption journey. Could I request our esteemed panel to please step forward for a photograph with the report? Thank you. And with this, I would like to invite Shri Jasmine Shah, Vice Chairperson of the Dialogue and Development Commission of Delhi, to deliver his special remarks to provide the vision set forth by the EV policy and the implementation overview.
Honorable Transport Minister Shri Kailash Gahlot ji, my senior colleague in DDC Shri Gopal Mohan ji, Principal Secretary Commissioner Transport Ashish Kundra ji, Special Commissioner Transport Neeraj ji, our very dear colleague and collaborator from RMI India, the head of RMI India, Akshima, as well as various government officials, stakeholders from the EV industry. I wish all of you a very good morning. Today is indeed a memorable day, a memorable occasion. This month marks the completion of 2 years of Delhi's EV policy. Many of you have tracked, traced, collaborated, discussed with us in DDC, in Transport Department, about the design of the EV policy, about the various stages of the implementation of EV policy, and what started off as, I would say, a dream back in August 2020, when we sat down and we launched the Delhi EV policy. We did some of the things which I would say were unheard of at that point in time. When Honorable CM Shri Arvind Kejriwal ji launched Delhi EV policy, and I think the video does a great job of summarizing some of those moments. Delhi was the first state to set out a very clear target that 25% of our sales of new vehicles should be EVs. At that point, mind you, not a single state, I don't remember, or nationally, we had a target. Yes, there was an aspiration that we want to increase our contribution of EVs. And I do remember that there were a lot of discussions that were happening even in Delhi ki hame apna target kya rakhna chahiye. An honorable minister would recall that in the conversation with CM we said ki because the benchmark at that time was Delhi was around 1.5%. तो हमने कहा कि चलिए 10% रख लेते हैं. But the CM asked कि 10% से कितना pollution कम होगा. And the numbers were not too exciting. And I would say it was the vision and the commitment of the CM that नहीं अगर हमें दिल्ली को दुनिया का one of the best cities बनाना है, if we really want to address the issue of pollution, then it doesn't matter where the rest of the country is. We need to set ourselves up with the best over the world. And that is how the target of 25% was decided. We had to go back, we had to do our calculations, we had to see what else could Delhi need to do if we have to reach a target of 25% share of EVs by 2024. But we said yes, we could do it. And that's how came about that commitment. Delhi was the first state to announce a firm target for EVs. We were also the first state which focused its entire policy on adoption of EVs rather than manufacturing of EVs. We spoke about that. You heard that in the video as well. So, be it incentives across different vehicle segments, Delhi was the first state to very carefully target the incentives and try and achieve price parity at least for the two biggest segments that contribute to pollution, which is two-wheelers and three-wheelers. Delhi was the first state at that time to make sure that road tax and registration fee was completely free for all categories of EVs, be it four-wheelers, three-wheelers, two-wheelers, any category of EVs. We were the first state at that time whose EV policy was technology agnostic. Us time to battery swapping was hardly heard about. But we knew that at the end of the day, it is the consumer who should decide what technology is apt for them. And at the end of the day, as a government, what we care about is reduction in pollution rather than technology A or a technology B. And we were also the first policy to use the idea or concept of fee-bait to fund our incentives in EV policy. What is the idea of fee-bait? That you put an additional fee on polluting vehicles to give incentives to clean vehicles. So Delhi had a diesel cess that was already going, and as part of the policy, we mandated that 50% of the money that is collected out of the diesel cess of polluting vehicles will directly go to fund the incentives under electric vehicles. So the story of design of Delhi's EV policy is a story of many firsts. Many things were conceived for the first time, which hadn't been done anywhere else in the country. 2 years from that moment, and today if I have to recall and retrace the journey, I'm very glad to share that over the last 2 years, some of the things that Delhi has done, it has not been easy, but many new innovations, many new initiatives have been taken that has allowed us to reach where we are today. First and foremost, as we say, Delhi today is the first metropolitan city or state to have reached double digits of sales in EVs anywhere in the country. We are at an average of 10% if you look at the entire year of 2022, but we reached a high point of 12.5%. The rest of the country, India is at around 3%, and if you talk about some of the metropolitan cities, they are at around 5 to 6%, Mumbai and Chennai. Delhi today is comparable, if you just look at the share of EVs, we are comparable to the states of California and the city of New York. We are today the first state to create a very hassle-free and digital incentive dispersal system which directly sends the incentives in the bank account of the consumers. It was again, something normally government incentive dispersals. The experience was that 2 mahine, 3 mahine lagte the at that time, but I'm glad a very innovative system was created, Aadhaar authenticated, that allowed this kind of a system to be created. Today we are the first state which has created a very successful PPP model of setting up a large number of public charging stations. It is important we realized that government can showcase and create pilots by setting up the stations themselves. But if you have to do this at scale, अगर आपको 10-20 नहीं, अगर आपको 100 public charging stations लगाने हैं, 3 महीने में लगाने, 6 महीने में लगाने हैं, then you have to involve the private sector. And we didn't have any template at that point in time कि ये कैसे किया जाए. And what we did eventually has led to some of a very exciting response from the market. And today the kind of rates at which charging can happen in Delhi is not just the lowest in India, 2 rupees per unit as you heard in the video, but probably lowest in the world. We are also the first state which has created a single window facility that any one of you, at an individual level, at a RWA level, or if you have a small business, mall, if you want to set up a small charging point or even a fast charging point, a DC 001, you can directly call your DISCOM or raise a request on their website, and within 7 days you get the charger installed net of Delhi government subsidy. And finally, and I'm just highlighting or retracing how over the last 2 years, many things had to be done for the first time in Delhi. But one of the things which is very interesting is that Delhi's EV policy has almost given birth to entirely new vehicle segments. Back in 2020, and it's sometimes interesting to note how things change very quickly and in response to a policy. Even in early 2020, there were hardly any electric cabs, electric gaadi. Just think about it. Back in 2019, had any one of you traveled in an electric car, electric cab, taxi? It's very interesting to note that out of 2,331 electric cabs that have been registered in India in the last 1 year, 52% have been registered in Delhi alone. Electric goods carriers, electric LCVs as we call it, the three-wheeler good carriers. There were hardly any registrations in Delhi happening back in 2019-20. But because of the concerted push of the government, because of the way the incentives were lined up, today 26%, a quarter of all the electric three-wheeler goods that have been registered nationally are registered in Delhi. And third is the segment of electric cycles, which I am personally the most fond of and the biggest champion of, because it's not just advances the goal of clean mobility, but also non-motorized transport and safe transport. Delhi today is the only city that recognizes and incentivizes electric cycles, not just the regular cycles meant for passenger commute, but even for cargo electric cycles meant for last mile deliveries. And we are very sure in the next 1 year, Delhi is going to set the market for electric cycles across the country. So this has been some of the key highlights as I look back over the last 2 years, that Delhi set a high target, Delhi set a very ambitious vision, but what was critical that Delhi followed it up with innovation at every stage of the last 2 years. We know that the policy made a lot of tall commitments, and therefore the work did not start by announcing a very grand EV policy. The work started when we actually announced the policy. And I'm sure this report is a very good compilation of all that Delhi has done. But the three things that stand out for me, if you ask the question, how did Delhi achieve this? How did Delhi actually translate its vision of becoming the EV capital of India into reality? Then first and foremost, what strikes me is the steadfast and the steadfast commitment of the political leadership. This wouldn't have been possible if I said right from day one, Honorable CM Shri Kejriwal ji and Honorable Transport Minister Kailash Gahlot ji had not backed this and made this their personal vision, their personal commitment to the people of Delhi. I think at every stage, be it about funding the incentives, there were times when we ran out of the funds from just the diesel cess. And at that time, Minister Transport always assured all of us that we will get the due budgetary support. Whatever is required, Delhi will meet each and every of its commitment as far as EV policy is concerned. The second big thing that stands out as to how did Delhi achieve this, I would say, is collaborative ownership. This was never the policy of transport department or DDC or Delhi government alone. I think right from the moment the draft EV policy had actually come out in November of 2018, it was close to a year and a half long process by which hundreds of conversations, consultations, formal, informal, took place. Most of you who are in this room today would remember sharing your views, talking to Delhi government, informing कि ये tweak कर दीजिए, ये ऐसा कर दीजिए, this will be better, this is how people will be more encouraged to buy EVs. And we listen. And I think at every stage of the implementation, be it about how do we design the incentive dispersal process, how do we set up the single window process. I must credit the DISCOMs of Delhi, the power department officials, at every stage, when it comes to setting up charging stations, transport department, of course, took the lead. The entire process of giving subsidies, transport department took the lead. So at all these stages, these innovations, these initiatives were possible is because we knew that always that if we were stuck with something, we just needed to go and talk to people who felt equally passionate about EVs and clean mobility, and together we will find those answers. I also take this opportunity to thank RMI India. I think their support, their collaboration, their inputs over the last 2 years have been very critical in guiding us, be it in terms of supporting us with industry conversations, collaborations like the ones that we are having today, or through independent research, which has made sure that we always knew what is happening around the world. Many times when you're achieving a goal like this, where no other city or state in India is, the only way is to look outside, to look at what is good that's happening around the world. And I think that is where we've been very fortunate to have RMI India as a partner. And third, what was critical in Delhi achieving our goals is the dedicated institutional setup that Delhi created. So it was not just about announcing the EV policy. We ensured that we, as a government, we were ready to implement the EV policy. And first and foremost was the creation of a dedicated EV cell within the transport department. I thank the Commissioner Transport, Special Commissioner Transport, and their entire team for the way they have led the implementation of EV policy from day one. There is a dedicated team. RMI India is also supporting a lot of work in EV cell. We had a working group for charging infrastructure that was created for the first time in Delhi, which ensured that around 15 agencies that had to play different role in setting up charging points could come together, discuss. It could never have been imagined that 100 different locations across 10 or 12 agencies could be pooled together in a common tender and put out at a very standardized in terms of protocols. We have a forum like this, the EV forum, where we had, this was an institutionalization of the consultation process. Many times it's easy to say कि हमने बातचीत करने के लिए one-on-one meetings कर ली. But we said no, there should be something more formal than having one-on-one conversations. So we created the EV forum, where every 6 months we convene together, we create spaces where people from the industry, from the EV ecosystem can air their concerns, give suggestions, give inputs, so that we ensure that we are on the right track. So on that note, again, I thank each and every stakeholder, not just within the government, but outside the government as well, who has contributed to the success of Delhi EV policy. This is not just some one entity success, this is all our success. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jasmine ji, for your leadership, vision and commitment to make Delhi the EV capital of the nation. With this, can I request, and I'd like to really invite our Honorable Minister for Transport, Government of NCT of Delhi, Shri Kailash Gahlot ji, to give his keynote speech, please.
Very good morning to all of you. मंच पर जैस्मिन शाह जी, गोपाल मोहन जी, आशीष कुंद्रा जी, नीरज जी, अक्षिमा जी और इस हॉल में सभी अलग अलग सेगमेंट से आए हुए सभी को नमस्कार। मेरे ख्याल से कुछ ज़्यादा बचा नहीं है कहने को, क्योंकि सब कुछ तो वीडियो में था, जो कुछ बचा था वो जैस्मिन जी ने आपके सामने रख दिया। Nevertheless, I think it's quite an important day for all of us, and I really congratulate DDC, RMI, the entire transport department, entire Delhi government for achieving this ambitious target.